Hello and welcome to today's tutorial. Today we'll be talking about conditional statements. What is a conditional statement? Well, a conditional statement is one where more than one choice can be chosen. We often give users the choice of doing one thing or another in a program, and there are two ways of doing this. One, the use of an if or else statement, and two, the use of a switch statement. So let's crack on and get coding. First we'll open an empty file and then we'll save it to our file. Don't forget the .cpp as always. Okay, let's go. Okay, first we do our include iostream. And remember what this line of code does is it includes an external library into our project, so where we can use code to help in our project. So we can just write a small comment. These double forward slash are comment lines, and what they are is they just allow you to write small notes in the program, and once the compiler sees the double forward slashes, it automatically ignores it. It doesn't compile it, it leaves it. It knows its comments, so I can just say external library. Okay, and using namespace. And what we can say here is to save space in our project. Okay, now for the real code. Okay, so we want to make a program to show if statements. So I'll give the scenario of a teacher who has the marks of a class of students, and they just have taken a test, and she's just got the marks, and she wants to input the marks into a program to find out whether the student has passed or failed the test. Just a simple test. It's nothing. It won't be too complicated. There won't be any validation in it, so there's nothing to worry about. Okay, so first of all we need to declare our variable. So, and the variable, if you can remember from my last tutorial, a variable is a name, location and value, which is the name that you give to assign the variable to. The location is where it's stored in the memory of the computer, and the value of the variable is what the variable is actually storing. So let's make a variable to store our pass mark of the student. So we can say int. Remember, int stands for integer. Equals 0, and we assign it to 0 just to straight away, just to make it a bit easier for us. Let's make a comment here and say our variable to store the student's mark. Okay. So we've made ourselves a variable, and now we want to actually calculate whether they've passed or failed the exam. So we can go ahead, and one way of finding this out is the use of an if statement. So when using if statements, we go into the main function and we say if pass mark is greater than 60, let's just say the pass mark is 60, then actually, I've missed out a huge bit. We need to first actually ask the user to enter in what the student's mark was. And we can output a statement. Remember, cout is character output, so let's say enter the student's mark, and end L. Don't forget the end L means end line, and also don't forget the semicolon is always needed after a line of code. Okay, so once we've asked the user to enter in their mark, we need to take in what they've entered into the keyboard. So we can say character input, cin, and then we can save it into our pass mark variable. So now this is done, and we can see that going back to our code, we can see that we've asked the user to input the student's mark, and then we stored it into our pass mark variable. So now we can start with our if statement. We can say if pass mark is greater than 60, then, and with an if statement we need to open up these two curly brackets again, and then put the rest of the code inside. And then if the pass mark is greater than 60, we can output this student achieved a pass mark of at least 60, and then we can go ahead and end the line. Okay, just going back here, it's just best for us to make some comments on this, so let me just say output a statement to the user to enter in the student's mark, and then here we can say store the input into the variable declared earlier called pass mark. Okay, so going back to this if statement, we can now write a comment here and just say if the mark is greater than 60, then the student has passed, and this statement will be output to to the user. Okay, great. So this one's done, and then we can say, but obviously, sadly, not every student will pass an exam, so we have to have a statement that will say that a student has sadly failed an exam. So we can say else, and then, but with an else statement we don't need two brackets, so we can just go on and write here and just carry on with our output statement. And we can say this student failed to achieve the minimum pass mark, and then we can end that line. And this line of code just does the same as what this line of code does. So if the mark entered is less than 60, then it will go straight to this one, because this one only allows numbers that are pass marks that are more than 60. So it has to go straight to this one. And we can just say if a student has a mark less than 60, this statement will be output to the user. Okay, so this looks fairly decent now. So if I was to ask you what was wrong with this program, what would you say? You could look through this program 100 times and not realize there's anything wrong, but there is actually something wrong, because in an exam a student may get more than 60 and they can get less than 60, but it's still possible for a student to get exactly 60 in that exam. So we need a way of saying if a student gets a pass mark of 60, then ... So in order for us to do this, we need to use an else if statement. So, but we cannot use an else if statement at the end, because that's where the else statement goes. The else statement is when we have nothing else left we have no other options left, then we'll use that else statement. So an else statement goes right in the middle here, and else if pass mark equals 60. Okay, and we use a double equals here because one equals sign is used for assignment, just like we used up here. So we need a double equal sign to say that the pass mark is 60. So yeah, so we can open up two curly brackets again, and we can write our output statement and say this student achieved, or we can just say this student just passed. Then we can go ahead and end that line. Exactly 60. Okay, so now all we need to add now is our return 0 at the end of this, and if you can remember that this return